Good afternoon, everyone. So today's seminar will be begin within 5 minutes. So you can collect your pen and a piece of paper to take notes down about all the relevant points you feel interested in about your job applications in the UK at the moment. So during the session, if you have any questions, you can just tap down in the box just nearby the YouTube Live to leave a note to us, and there will be someone to respond to you. Or alternatively, after the session, you can contact us to book a free one-to-one consultation to solve your individual issue. Alright, so let's start our today's session. So just to briefly introduce about who we are before we start this session. So we are Career Interactive. We are one of the UK leading career coaching companies that helps international students with every stage of the application process, including your CV, cover letter, online application form, online test, first round interview, assessment center, partner interview, and until you get the offer. So thank you for joining CIUK Career Interactive YouTube webinar. Today we are going to cover the topic about your reapplication process in the UK graduate job market. So However, if you are on your reapplication stage, stating like if you have applied for certain jobs last September or last autumn, but you failed, you need to reapply for the job in the UK at the moment. Or if you are preparing to apply for your job, your graduate job in the upcoming September. So this is the session specifically designed for you. Will be extremely helpful for students who are applying or preparing for the spring intakes in 2021. Okay, so what we will cover today, we'll briefly review the graduate recruitment process with you. So if you have applied before, you should understand the standard recruitment procedures in the UK. So it's quite standardized, and as long as you prepare it thoroughly, and if you are a person meet up the let's say selection criteria, you should be the one to be able to gain the offer. And later on, we will see the application process in details. We will provide you some insight reviews on how to prepare each stage. And of course, we will help you to understand the sponsorship and also to show you the current opportunities or upcoming opportunities based upon past year experience to release this information for you. I would say these opportunities or these tips will be quite helpful, especially this year's recruitment market. It's a bit, different from the past year due to the macroeconomic macro environment. So, well, let's see the next page. Okay. So before going into the details about the recruitment process, we would like you to understand what's the application timeline you should follow, typically after Brexit and a lot of new immigration policies has been released, and also to understand the application timeline, differences between industry to industry. Okay, so the first change you need to understand is in relation to banking industry. However, it's commercial banking, retail banking, or even investment banking. You need to understand that early recruits or some recruitment changes have been already applied to banking industry. So apart from the current macro environment and a lot of influences applied to the banking industry, you should understand banking is the industry getting more and more difficult to get an offer. So if you really want a top bank offer, it actually something gained from all your previous work. So it's not really kind of like just a small step at your final year and then you can get a banking job offer. So for example, if you are on your, let's say, first year or fresh year or second year, it is still the time for you to trying to get a top banking company offer. Or otherwise, you need to consider about your options combining with other options together to see what kind of the job you can get. But of course, for the students who are coming to UK in this September, you will gain the post-study work visa. So maybe you're not really available to go to the really top investment banks, but for some other financial industry companies have banking function. Maybe still your option can gain an offer with, but that will be a quite complicated case. You need to review the situation of the company, and you need to review your demands to this job and whether you are aiming for just some work experience or you're actually aiming for long-term career in UK. So you need to compare the details and to see how to make your final choice. So just like what we briefly mentioned here, you need to bear in mind. So if you have certain internship or work experience before, whether it's in banking industry or insurance industry or even in Big Four professional services, if you want to apply for graduate job offer with a bank, you need to prepare now, because most of the bankings, they open their graduate schemes quite early, since 2018. So back to 2018, Morgan Stanley opened their vacancies in June, and last year Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley, they all opened their vacancies in July. So this year, even though due to the various situation, maybe they may change a bit about their recruitment method. For example, changing from on-site to online, but they will still recruiting roughly for the same time of the year. So you should still prepare, as it will open the vacancies in June or July. So currently you have April, May, so 2 months to prepare ahead. And if you are on your final year, you also need to prepare for your final projects and some other stuff. So currently it's a time for you to prepare for banking if you are aiming for the offer, especially for students if you are on your reapplication process. I would like to highlight the visa policy changes for you now. So if you can get a banking offer, potentially you will be able to do an overseas visa. So basically you are not really it's not really necessary for you to apply the visa within the country. So for example, if you in this June you apply for a top investment bank graduate scheme, and you gain the offer for next year June or July intake or September intake, so what you can do is you can apply in that tier 2 visa when you are in your home country, because next year will be the point-based system. So the tier 2 visa application process will follow in the point-based system. So if you meet up the certain requirement, you will be available to apply for that type of the visa. So for the details about the visa, I'm not really going into details in this session. If you are interested in the visa policies, you can review the session we delivered last Thursday, or you can request the details through emailing us. Okay, so let's review the next changes with professional services. So basically with professional services, normally in past year we normally refer to like Big 4 or Big 6. But basically you can also think about, for example, consulting companies will be also your option. So you need to bear in mind the changes made into professional services industry. I would say two tips for you. So the first tip is always give yourself a chance to apply for the spring intake with them. So this means, for example, if you are on the middle of your final year now, you applied with professional services last September, October, or November, you can calculate your cooling period, which is normally 6 months, and then make your reapplication normally after April this year. So you can wait. You can choose to apply for September intake anyway, or alternatively, if I were you, I would just to find out my weaknesses and prepare fully for their spring intake rather than to reapply the September intake Yeah. So this is basically because if you're not really fully prepared for the professional services application, it's very easy for you to fail at the very beginning stage. And this actually related to the second point I would like to introduce to you. So basically, it's also since around 2018 and last year. So most of the professional services, they increase their difficulty level of their recruitment procedures. So to be specific, they have a quite general application form to get all your background information. And then the online test becomes more difficult comparing to past years. So in past years, when we refer to online test, it's a separate test to test your numerical skills, to test your verbal skills, to test your logicals, and of course to test your situational judgment skills. However, since late 2018, most of the companies, they changed their recruitment method. They changed this online test as an online immersive test. So what does online immersive test mean? It means you will have all type of the skills merged together to be tested in a one-seat test. Let me give you a business situation. It's quite like a small business assessment center, but you complete it solely on yourself. So you see the business scenes, you see the business situation. It's potentially just some day-to-day task if you work for that company, but you need to reply emails. You need to judge on the real business situation to see how you react to a continuous case. And it may involve with reading, financial reports or business reports to gain the relevant data and figure to give your recommendations. So it's more complicated comparing to past years. It's more practical side related. So if you only have knowledge from what you have learned from your academics at school, that will be a bit difficult for you, to do the online immersive test, because it tests your real abilities and skills to solve the real life issues. So this is the first obstacle you may meet. And the second will be more about the video interview and later on assessment center. I will cover it in details later. Okay, so currently it's difficult for us to confirm when the spring 2021 intake will happen. But what is confirmed now is that market demand is still very high. So at least so far, we don't see any sign that the companies will freeze their spring intake recruiting, because even they open the vacancies, let's say in July or August, it's still the time they can recruit good and right candidate fit into the positions to join them in next year's spring. So spring normally covers March or April. And alternatively, for example, like BDO, they have their winter intake, which is December this year. So you will see the information in later on part of this presentation. So I've also covered a bit about the more difficult assessment tests. So what we want to deliver the important message that I would like to deliver to you in this session is to ask you to prepare, because none of the graduate job application in this market is that easy. You have to prepare fully, so your practice and your preparation makes you perfect to win in this highly competitive market. Okay, so let's just briefly have a review about the application time for different industries. So the first industry we cover is banks. So currently, if you want to work in bank, certain background will be quite beneficial if you apply for a banking job. So the first industry would the first types of the majors you study would be financial or mathematics related. So how do we define financial and mathematics related positions? So for example, if you study financial mathematics, if you study pure mathematics, or if you study, let's say, finance or investment or banking related subject, or alternatively, if you study technology or computer science based degree, banks can be also the option for you. This is due to the emerging of technology in financial industry, because it tends to be more technical related if you want to be a banker in a bank. So you need to bear in mind their opening date will be between June to September, and they normally closes on the end of October or beginning of November. But due to some, the high competition, most of the vacancies closes earlier. So here, the earlier we mean it's not really kind of like for example, they open their vacancies. They open their vacancies since, let's say, September. So just try a standard one. In September, they open the vacancy, and it's stating the vacancy closed by the end of November. Let's say, for example, 23rd of November. So if you apply this position in November, I would say it is slightly too late, because banking opens very limited positions every year. So if you apply too late, it just means even if you are a qualified candidate, you may be the person not really being reviewed by the bank, because once they recruit, the number is fully recruited, they will close their vacancies. Okay. The second is about the technical related positions at banks, professional services, and even IT firms. So the upcoming September is really the chances for students with technology background that you want to start a really, really privileged career in technical related fields. This is not just due to how popular the type of the degree you study. It is also due to the high demand of the market, as well as the visa policies changes. So if you apply for banks, professional services, or IT firms, you should prepare now as well, because it's already April. So you don't really have much time to prepare, if you just apply your job right on the application season. So normally you should give yourself 3 to 4 months ahead of the application to ensure your application is thoroughly, prepared and everything you fully understand, and then it's the chance for you, to pass the later on assessments. And for engineering, so engineering fields is a bit tricky, because engineering industry, they have less liquidity comparing to other industry. For example, some very big companies, so they recruit since September, October, or even November every year to recruit their new graduate scheme. So far, what we can confirm is that Shell does recruit a lot of students every year. But comparing to other engineering industry companies, sometimes it required strictly engineering background, so depending on the vacancy you apply to. So if now you are still looking for the engineering field job, I would say to raise an inquiry to us, because engineering fields is various fields of the study, whether you're from mechanical background, from or other fields, or even aerospace. So they are covering different opportunities. So you have to analyze your case in details to see whether you are still the person can pursuing a career within engineering industry in the UK, or to see how to switch your options or adjust your options to ensure yourself can work fully in the United Kingdom. And for law industry, it's a bit tricky with law industry because it much relates to an individual's personal abilities and background and their experience, and different areas you can choose as the starting point for your law field related jobs. So I would say if you are from law background, similar to engineering background student, to raise your individual inquiry to us to see whether you are still belongs to the category, can still apply for the job in UK, because it's not everyone has the opportunities at the moment. So strongly recommend you to raise the inquiry if you have similar fields, questions, would like to seek the help with us. Okay, so for the rest of the majors, so however, if you're from arts related or any other related background, or if you study human resources, or if you study marketing, or if you study education, language, or anything else, you can always to try the swing intakes with professional services, but you need to be a super good candidate. So in order to kind of like assessing yourself whether a good one, you can contact us, or you can just leave your questions in the box of this session and we will reply you later. Okay, so let's go in details to the graduate recruitment process. So as I mentioned before, online application I won't cover much because I've told you about quite a lot about online tests, so basically a psychometric test and aptitude test already. So currently we call it online immersive test. And with CV, cover letter, and additional questions, I would say you need to bear in mind it involves with machine screening, and you need to use the standardized structure to apply for certain industry, depends on which industry you apply to. Just a bit to mention is the cover letter. So a lot of students, when they see cover letter as an optional choice, they just skip it. But we highly recommend you must submit your cover letter if you really want that job. Because if you don't really, for example, if you were the employer and a candidate even don't really want to submit a cover letter to you, how serious you think this candidate is to this vacancy? So cover letter is necessary. However, it's a compulsory or optional. Always submit your cover letter. First round interviews. So here we say often telephone based. It's just typically relates to investment banking. I mean really top investment banks. But nowadays you need to change your first round interviews focus to video based interview. So video based interview is about facial screening, AI screening, to see if you are lying, to see if you are reading something, to see if you are fully prepared, to see if you are, meeting up the time range they gave to you. So always ensure yourself is fully prepared for every typical questions that a first round interview may ask you. So normally first round interview is competency based, not much related to industrial and practical questions. However, if you want to prepare if you want to apply for a company and gain an offer successfully, at least at this stage, you should be the one already understand the industry already. You shouldn't prepare for your understanding to the industry, to the vacancy, until the time you have already passed your first round interview. Your first round interview is already the time you need to understand at least a bit technical and vacancy related questions for the role you're going to apply to. You should already done very in-depth research to that vacancies and the firm you're applying to, and also in relation to the industry. So video interview. Another thing is very important for video interview is that you need to ensure the length of your answer is within the time frame they give to you. So for example, they give you 3 minutes to answer a question. Then start at the 5th to 10th second to give your answer, and finish your answer before 2 or 3 minimum seconds the video finished. Okay, so it's about first round interview. Then let's see about assessment center. Assessment center this year will be quite tricky. Previous year, obviously, assessment center will be fully on-site. But this year, we are no longer confirmed whether it will be online assessment center. So our suggestions is always to ensure yourself fully prepared. So what does fully preparation mean? Fully preparation means however type of the test is upcoming in the market, you are always prepared fully. You are always confident with the content, the type, and even the method, they are going to assess you. So however it's on-site or online, you should be the person to pass on different tab. It may be case study. It may be online face-to-face interview. It may be a small, online group discussion like remote meeting with others or other types of the assessment. So always prepare your assessment center at the very beginning when you prepare to apply for a job in the UK, because assessment center should be the most difficult stage of your assessment. And for partner interview, definitely you should be very good to pass the partner or director interview. Okay, so online application I've covered in much details. Okay, so here's we actually explain a bit in details about the initial screening for your application. So you can read through this transcript to understand why we say online application is very important for you. Because normally online application stage, the company can, select around only 30% of the candidates to proceed to the next stage of their assessment. So basically means 70% of the candidate will be not selected for this program. So you need to ensure you are applying to the program you are on the correct year. This is something I really hope all of you can remember it. So keep it as a note. If you are on your final year, never apply for the summer internship. Because if you review the details of the summer internship, sometimes it's called penultimate year internship. What does penultimate year mean? It means it is designed for students who can work as an intern for that company in the summer. And after the summer assessment, they may be invited to a fast track process or even a return offer for the next year graduate intake. So if you are on your final year, don't apply for the penultimate year internship because you will not be considered. You are not really the person meet up for their criteria. And always, to ensure you have very good score on your online test, well, minimum grade is achieved is okay, but just assume the later on situation. If another person pass all the application process similar like you, then maybe details will be compared. For example, they will see whose online test perform better. They will see the details of your assessment performance. Okay. Also to see your educational background and experience. So this is actually everything about your job positioning and your preparation for your first stage. Alright, so the second screening is not really conducted by a machine, it's conducted by a person. They will see your CV, they will review whether you are someone they feel interested in, and they will evaluate everything basically. And about a photograph, never include a photograph when a profile picture is not really that professional in UK top company graduate job market. And always CV should be one page. So about first round interview, I've already covered a lot of things. So here we actually tell you about what kind of the questions they may ask. So for example, competency-based questions to test your teamwork, motivation, and also to see whether you speaking clearly, confidently during these interviews, and also don't overstate it, your past experience, to be realistic, and also your voice should be on medium. So always ensure you are presenting, you are answering in a very neutral way with your confidence. Okay, assessment center. I've already covered assessment center. So we just give you some tips for you to prepare your interviews. So you need to evaluate your ability and competencies. So basically, it's about to see your CV, to read through your CV. When you are invited to any type of the interview, you should already have a very, very detailed picture about your CV in your mind. You need to understand what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, what are the skills you achieved from your past experience. Do you have any achievements? Have you solved any problem-solving issues? So there are quite a lot of competency-based questions you need to prepare for. And also, if they give you an assumption for some issue happening in the future, you need to use your strengths-based related skills to tell the employer how you will deal with that case. So when talking about your stories, it is following the STAR strategy, and you need to tell who you are, who motivates you, and where you fit, and also to give them very comprehensive understanding, accurate, but not too wordy, to tell the employer you prepared, but you also have your own logic when you answering each of the questions. So always listen to the question and answer the question. Okay, So I've mentioned a bit about the when to make your application before. So it's the example about, for example, apply for a typical job, whether at the beginning or in the middle or by the end of its closing date. So this is actually in relation to a higher pile. So the higher pile is actually about the sponsorship. So the sponsorship normally occurs when a candidate's ability and motivation and desire matches the business need of the team. So this actually relates to a hire or a reject. So they will normally have quite strong sponsorship with the really top companies in the UK. So you need to see how many numbers of the candidate they may recruit this year, and if you are the good candidate within the time period of a sponsorship can be issued, they will sponsor you. So here are some tips to improve your chances of getting a sponsorship. So we've mentioned firstly how important the assessment center it is. Because in assessment center, if you are really a strong candidate, fits into that role, if the company is good enough, they will consider to hire you. And second is getting your story right. So what does getting your story right mean? So first, you need to ensure your story always aligns with the conclusion of the hiring panel requires as considerable preparation and support. So this actually means, first, you need to ensure all your detailed action points support your final conclusion. And second, you need to ensure you are applying for a vacancy that can sponsor. So this is actually the key. If you are applying for a vacancy that rarely sponsors, you're just wasting your time. And third, it's about a full preparation and really mutual communication with the team and the company you're applying with. So it's always very, very important for you to deliver the correct, accurate information. So never overstating or bluffing your achievement, because they will have screening on you. So what does screening mean? Screening is the company to conduct whether you are lying. So never lie, to be honest, to be an honest person during the assessments, during whole assessment process. Don't hide something, and don't avoid something, and also don't overstate something. So if you have that experience, just tell the employer, I have that experience, and what you have done to tell them in very accurate way. Okay, so this is about your chance of sponsorship. So a lot of students, when they kind of like raise a consultation with us, they sometimes may overstating their past experience. So even us, we will do the screening check for you. So it's very important for you to ensure yourself being an honest person in the employment market. So here I shared some current opportunities for you. So you can see like PwC, Grant Thornton, Ernst & Young, and KPMG. They are still opening their September intakes. You can still apply now. And also for Deloitte. But if you review BDO, you can see their winter intake already open. So it's your chance to apply for their winter intake. And later on should be spring intake with PwC, EY. Yeah? So always ensure yourself being fully prepared. Okay. So I've mentioned a bit about who we are before this session. So we actually providing all the coaching and in-depth and personalized coaching services to international students or even local students who are aiming for really top company job offer in this market. So our helps ranging from your general career advice, so it's through the free one-to-one consultation, or job positioning, online application form, CV cover letter helps, online test help. So online test help is from our platform. So if you register with us at this link, so www.careerinteractive.org, you will be able to log in with us. You will be able to see the Activate online platform just like this. So this is a screenshot of our online test training center, so you can prepare everything here. And of course, we also help with your interview trainings, assessment centers, and also any detailed inquiries about the questions and the difficulties you have met during your application process. And the average time for us to securing a Tier 2 job offer for a student will be 4 months. We also have offer guarantee programs. So if you feel interested in offer guarantee programs, you can always raise an inquiry to us. Or alternatively, you can just visit our official website to see the details, to use your university email to register with us, and then you will be able to see the details. But of course, we have the selection criteria on students. You should be academically excellent, speaks reasonably good English, you have very strong career motivation. You need to be highly motivated about starting your career in the UK. And of course, sometimes we need your family support. So if you want to see the details, you can see our online platform. Okay, so that's for today's session. So we hope you can send us emails or leave a message to us on YouTube or any channel you follow with us to tell us what kind of the sessions you want us to deliver to you. So next week we are going to cover the details about your application process. So email us and let us know what kind of help you want us to provide to you, and we will see if it's feasible for us to answer our questions. So you can email us with an inquiry at info@careerinteractive.org, or alternatively you can scan in the QR code here to follow us on our WeChat. Okay, thank you everyone for joining our today's session, and see you next Thursday. Thank you.